Hello, dear friends. This is The Medium's Harvest, a book written by Emmanuel through the mediumship of Xavier, bringing to us new understanding and deeper understanding of mediumship. Allan Kardec brought to us in 1861 the medium's book as a manual thinking about all those who would like to practice mediumship in a safe way. But the Kardec understood mediumship in a very peculiar way. I would say in an educational way. He understood that mediumship is not for a few, it's not for some, it's for everyone. So much so that today, as we enter chapter 48 of the Medium's Harvest, Emmanuel relies upon a beautiful definition that Kardec brought to us about mediums. And it's in item 159 of the Medium's book by Kardec. Kardec understood mediumship as part of our humanity. Mediums are not some or a few. Kardec understood that mediumship is for all and is in all. So much so that in item 159 of the Medium's book, which is part of the beginning of chapter 14, titled Mediums, Allan Kardec says, every individual who senses the influence of spirits to any degree of intensity is a medium. Do you sense the influence of spirits in any degree or intensity? You're a medium. Many people do. Everyone does at some point. And they don't realize it. This faculty, says Kardec, is inherent to humanity. You see, Kardec saw it as our constitution, and it pertains to our own physiology. It, therefore, does not constitute an exclusive privilege. And there are very few individuals who do not possess it, at least in a rudimentary state. Thus, we can state that everyone is a medium to a certain degree. You're a medium, I'm a medium, so let's educate it. And that's why he brought the manual. He compiled it, saying, it's part of humanity. Mediumship is part of our humanity. So we really need to understand it, be aware of it, work with it, educate it. And he continues, thus, we can state that everyone is a medium to a certain degree. Usually, however, this label is applied solely to those who possess a well-characterized mediumistic faculty that expresses itself through patent effects of a certain intensity, which depends on a more or less sensitive physical organization. One should further note that this faculty does not express itself in all mediums in the same way. Mediums usually have a special aptitude for this or that order of phenomena, which divides them into as many different varieties as there are kinds of manifestations. The main varieties are physical effect mediums, sensitive or impressionable mediums, hearing, speaking, seeing, somnambulistic, healing, pneumatographic, writing, or psychographical mediums. Okay, bottom line, in spite of the categories that he's going to describe later in the book, we're going to focus here on the very definition. He says, every individual who senses the influence of spirits to any degree of sensitivity is a medium. So Kardec divides history in 1861, bringing to us the understanding The mediumship is no longer for a few. But in our spiritist movement, there is still that feeling that mediums are just a few. That not everybody should be educated in their mediumship. And we still repeat the same old mistakes of ancient times, thinking that mediums are special beings. And that's the idolatry of many people to mediums who have a particular mission. We're grateful to them, but I cannot treat them better because of that reason, because they're mediums. If I do, I still don't understand the Christ consciousness regarding Spiritism. And there's still this myth that not everybody, it's dangerous, not everybody should have access to the practice of mediumship. We agree, and Kardec wrote the chapter about the dangers of not knowing what we're doing. But with the advent of Spiritism, with the educational materials of Kardec, if the Spiritist Center is aligning itself safely on the foundation of the codification by Kardec, and the stellar books that are brought in by André Luiz, Emmanuel, then there's no reason to shut the door to the public and keep mediumistic teachings to a few. I'm not going to say we're not going to have particular meetings. We have and we shall. But teaching about the awareness of mediumship shall be brought forth more and more to the world, like what we are doing here together at Kardec Radio. There's no fear. This doesn't make us crazy. On the contrary, it makes us more disciplined because we know more about ourselves. So let's see what Emmanuel brings to us as an unfoldment of this foundation that is given by Allan Kardec. So we're going to read chapter 48 of the book of the Medium's Harvest. And the Medium's Harvest is titled Mediumistic Faculties. On a meeting July 1st, 1960, based on this 159 item of the Medium's book, Emmanuel wrote the following: there is a diversity of spiritual gifts, but the spirituality is the same. There is diversity of ministries, but it is the same Lord that administers them all. There is diversity of operations for the good, yet it is the same law of God that operates in all. The spiritual manifestation, however, is distributed to each to what is useful. Thus, it is that to the one it is given the word of divine wisdom through the Spirit, and to another by the same Spirit the word of human science. To another person it is entrusted the service of faith, and to another the gift of healing. To a person it is given the production of phenomena, the prophecy is given to another, and to even other it is given the faculty of discerning spirits. To another it is given the variety of languages, and yet to another the interpretation of these same languages. However, the same spiritual power accomplishes all these things, dividing its resources particularly to each one as it deems necessary. Anyone who analyzes the above text superficially will certainly judge to be reading modern Spiritist author defining the problem of mediumship. However, the statements we transcribe have come out of the feast of the Apostle Paul 19 centuries ago and are listed in chapter 12 of his first letter to the Corinthians. As it is easy to see, the consonance between Spiritism and Christianity stands out perfectly in every correct study that is carried out. In the message of Allan Kardec, we have the key to broader elucidations of the teachings of Jesus and his followers. Each medium is mobilized in the work of the good according to the possibilities available to him. This one guides, the other clarifies. This one speaks, another one writes. This one prays, another relieves. In mediumship, therefore, do not worry about admiring or provoking admiration. Let us seek above all, for ourselves, the privilege of learning and the place of service. Yeah, I know Emmanuel writes so well that he doesn't leave any doubt that he's telling us, no matter which type of mediumship, what matters is that we are learning with it and we're serving with it. Because nowadays, and it has been like this since ancient times, healing mediumship is still the one, right? Oh, he's a healing medium, she's a healing medium. Oh, he or she foresees the future, prophesies. But for us, Emmanuel is telling us in great synchronicity and attunement with Kardec and the teachings of the Christ. It doesn't matter. If you are a medium, he says, a medium that counsels spirits, a medium that speaks the words of those good spirits, or writes, or heals, prays, relieves, it doesn't matter. The type doesn't matter. And many people are concerned about the type. But let's rewind the tape here. To be a medium is to be a helper of the spiritual world. Do you remember when Emmanuel stated that? Yes, it was chapter, let me recall, 44. To be a medium is to be a helper of the spiritual world. And he says, to be a helper is to spontaneously help, giving some rest to those who are responsible for the task. So to be a medium is to be a helper of the spiritual world, whether you're helping as a healing medium, writing medium, speaking medium, singing medium, or whatever type of mediumship, painting medium, it doesn't matter. I know, for the world it may matter, but for us spiritists, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which type of mediumship. And this is great because when we form a spiritist mediumistic meeting, the first thing people are concerned is about what type of mediumship do I have. That's their first concern. And they focus so much on getting to know what kind of mediumship that they have that everything becomes not productive. To the point that I've got to know of a person who was observing that he was going to be a spirit counselor, I would say a counseling medium, because though he doesn't have any ostensible mediumship, he, through intuition, is being used to counsel the spirits. And this guy came to me once and said, but Vanessa, what if I step back and I start writing? But do you feel like writing? No. So why are you going to step back on something that you're doing so well, to start doing something that you don't even feel the impulse to do? We can't forget that we're not here to experiment. We're here to learn and to serve, says Emmanuel. So we no longer go back into ancient times when we were playing with our abilities of the Spirit. We no longer experiment. It's not on us to go there and say, let me try being a healing medium. As if you can push a button and you boom, go. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't. Nobody's gonna tell us, no spirit guide is gonna tell us, you are a writing medium. Emmanuel didn't come to Chico and said, Chico, let me tell you, you're gonna be a writing medium. Divaldo, Joana de Anjos, you're gonna be a writing medium. A speaking medium, a seeing medium, a healing medium. Guardian angels don't do it. Nobody does it. So you may be asking, if you're forming a spiritist mediumistic group, how do you know? Well, the director of the meeting is going to perceive the abilities. And you perceive because we get to know people in advance. We don't gather together today and do a mediumistic meeting tomorrow. We actually know one another. Right, Tanya? We know one another. And actually, the more we practice mediumistic studies and mediumistic meetings, the more we know of one another. If you want to hide your life, do not participate in a spiritist group. Because spiritist groups are places where we are purifying ourselves. It's impossible to hide who we are. You know, some people are like, but I don't want people to know that I have XYZ addictions. In a mediumistic meeting, it's gonna pop up. And people are like, oh no, people are gonna find out. You're right, sooner or later, because you bring the spiritual company that does have the same habits with you. We're never alone. And we will be invited to transform ourselves, because who we are impacts on the whole. Previous lives' personalities are going to impact on the whole. And that's good. It's not bad. Don't be sad. You know why? Because through those encounters, the spirits that accompany us from previous lives, friends and not so friends, they're going to communicate. They're going to be counseled. And they're going to be, some are going to be rescued. Others are going to be giving their words or even their instructions. Usually, throughout the pathway, we are not only helping the ones that come to the center in our neighborhood, in our lives, but we're also helping ourselves. We're supposed to be better after years and years and years of mediumistic practice. If when I start mediumistic work and 20 years later I'm the same person, not saying that I'm gonna be completely different, like different everything, but I'll be, I would say, in easy words, more mild, more generous, more fraternal, kinder, more conscientious, less impulsive, more considerate, more patient. If I am the same old person, even though I participate in mediumistic meetings as a counselor or medium, supporting medium, whatever type of mediumship, it's a sign that that mediumship meeting needs to be recycled. Because the superior spirits are going to allow us to do with it what we want. Yes, the superior spirits allow us to make mistakes for as long as we want to be blind. Why? Because learning happens from within. They give us warnings, but we may not see. You want to see? If you're a parent and you have children, you see. Depending on the age range, you tell them, don't climb the chair because you're going to fall. They don't listen. They climb up, they fall, they cry like, ah, and then, I told you. Ah, but they're little, their span of attention is different, right? But tell somebody who is probably 8, don't step on the same chair. You're like, okay, Mom, I know. Right? So same for us. Depending on our level of spiritual maturity, the spirits are there telling us, warning us in many different ways. And nowadays, even through Facebook, social media, all these books, friends, family, emails, WhatsApp messages, and Instagram messages, and yet we don't perceive it. It's about perception. Just to see how the good spirits always find different ways and means to help, there is a message by Humberto de Campos in one of his books, and I forgot which one of his books. Forgive me for this. But he says, there was a lady who used to be an alcoholic. And her guardian angel wanted so bad that she understood that she was being used by spirits of low order, that she was not alone when she was done drinking. So what did he do? He communicated in a mediumistic meeting, of course with the permission of the mentors of the meeting, communicated counting on that center to put together a spiritist program on TV at a particular time when they knew that she and others of the same addiction problems would watch the program. In a mediumistic meeting, the spirit came and communicated saying, the center shall put together a specific program to be broadcast on TV, helping people understand about spiritism and the teachings, the repercussions in life, da-da-da-da-da-da. And when the meeting ended, you know what we do when the meeting ends. We evaluate what happened, we analyze the messages that were written, that were listened, everything. You know how they analyzed it? At the end of the meeting, they said, this is crazy. This is vanity. This medium that brought the message, actually this message is vanity. And says Humberto de Campos that on the next day, another day, at a particular time, when it was planned by the superior spirits to have a spiritist program broadcast at that particular time, but it was not. What was showing on TV instead? an announcement about a particular type of alcoholic beverage, just reinforcing the addiction of people. So Umberto de Campos reminds us that in a particular mediumistic meeting, the advice of the good spirits to do the good is to do the good. I remember in 2001, when we were in another spiritist group, before we started these works in Baltimore, we received in the United States of America a message, written message saying, do the spiritist works in English. And I was, let me see, 20, at the time, almost 29 years old. I received a message, and then I thought, well, it makes sense. I was kind of surprised because the meeting was still in Portuguese. And I was like, wow, it makes sense. People at the meeting, they're like, oh, yeah. But deaf ears. They didn't care. And I went back to Baltimore, and I had an American therapist whom I was seeing. And she said, and I shared with her, I was frustrated. I was like, how come? You know, I take this meeting seriously. I didn't expect that the spirits would ever say that. But you know, thinking twice, it makes so much sense that we do our meetings in English. How come we're receiving the counsel of the spirits and we're not putting any effort in bringing it forth? And this was 2001. And then this American therapist, and I tell you her name, she's an elderly lady nowadays, Daryl Joyce. We owe a great deal to her. She looked at me and said, well, if elsewhere where you're going to, they give deaf ears to this message, I think it makes sense. I'm going to introduce you to the director of our holistic clinic, because she can, as a benefactor, allow you to use our space and do your mediumistic meetings here and do your spiritist works here in English. And then I was shocked for the second time. I was like, what? You're not even a spiritist, and you think this makes sense, and you want to help bring it forth? And she said, yes. So she introduced me on another day to that director, Zohara Meyerhoff Hieronymus, who is one of the greatest benefactors of the city of Baltimore, the greater Baltimore area in Maryland. Her father was the main patron of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra and many other works in Baltimore. Jewish. And then I talked to her, and then she said, you know, of course, what you do, this thought, I don't understand yet, but what you're saying makes sense to me. You can use our workshop room and you can do your works here free of charge. And for the third time, I was particularly shocked. I was like, wow, no way. Really? Meditated, talked to friends in our group in Baltimore, talked to friends in Brazil, and I said, how we're gonna do it? So we had a plan. And then we started it. We started the first Spiritist talks in English in the United States and in the world, because till then nobody was doing talks, they were doing study groups. And from there on, everything is history. But I remember the resistances that exist to date, lesser than before, but still do. And it came in a mediumistic meeting. The spirits, they bring to us, and we don't listen. we don't pay attention. First thing, we push it away. And we don't follow through what Kardec says. He says, observe the facts and analyze the language. I need to take life seriously. I'm not perfect. Who is perfect? But when the spirits counsel us, we need to pay attention. And if we think they're not saying anything, maybe we're not listening. Maybe our inner psychological resistances are not allowing us to pick up on what they're saying, but they're never silent. The good spirits are never silent. They are not chatterbox. They are not chatterboxes in our ears. But they release information according to the degree of our capacity to understand. But we need to make our effort. Do you remember when André Louis says that learning happens through effort and repetition? It's in the Evolution into Worlds book. Effort, repetition, effort, repetition. So we need to pay attention, right, Teresa Castro? Pay attention, be willing to change. It's not easy. I remember the surprise. I was like, wow, never thought about this. But it makes sense. How come we're doing these meetings in Portuguese in the United States of America? I mean, it's not a sacrilege, but it doesn't make sense either that we're going to disseminate it in Portuguese. So we need to make it come true in English. But how? And back then, we didn't have all those books that we have today. We had few. It was 6 years before the Spirit's book by EDC of America was actually published. We still had Anna Blackwell's translation, and we used it. It wasn't complete. Our mediumistic meetings were relying upon Anna Blackwell's. And Anna Blackwell, for those who don't know, was a British lady who actually brought forth the first translation from the French version of the Medium's book, Kardec's book, into English. And we were using that translation to do our works. So nowadays, we have zillions of materials, and there's no longer an excuse not to do it in the English language, if that is the case for people who are living in countries that are using the English-speaking language. But it all came from the spirits. It didn't come from our minds, because I confess to you, I was not paying attention. I was not computing. This decision didn't come from me being a genius. No. Far from it. I was just like a child and the parents saying, hey, pay attention. I was like, oh, really? We have to pay attention. Pay attention what? How? And researching. Paying attention. Focusing on the good. Can it be bad to do it in English? If it were, we wouldn't be here today. So, for us today, as Emmanuel is talking about mediumistic faculties, he's saying there is a diversity of spiritual gifts, but spirituality is the same. So it doesn't matter if you're a painting medium or writing medium. The spirits, the message of the spirits is going to come through. It doesn't matter if you're speaking medium or a seeing medium. If we pay attention, the spirits that are coming to communicate, they want to bring that message. And he adds one element. I'm not going to say only one, but one highlight for us. He says, each medium is mobilized in the work of the good according to the possibilities available to him. So mediumship is to serve. And he says, do not worry about admiring or provoking admiration. But often we do. Our ego wants to be admired. Of course. So we need to work on this. How? Doing what Chico Xavier did. These works are not mine. Because nowadays, forgive me to say this, mediums are becoming more important than the spirit authors of their message. Chico never did that. So much so that the copyright of all his books were not kept by him or by his anything. He trusted that it wasn't his, and he gave it away to other organizations that he had no control whatsoever. There are mediums nowadays that when they psychograph the books, their name is in capital letters and the author of the book, the spirit, is in lower case letters. We are reversing the order. So what matters is I leave the scene and I let the message shine. And I don't speak on the me, my, mine. And you don't even need to repeat this, like, oh, but it's not me, it's the spirits. We just say yes. People say, what a beautiful message. I agree. This message is really beautiful. The Spirit is trying to teach us something. Let us focus on this. Don't even say about you. Let's not even say about ourselves. And leave it alone. Like all the messages that came through the mediums at Kardec's time are here in these books, and we don't even know their names. I know there are other reasons for it, but that's the foundation of Spiritism. It's a true, humble work. Chico Xavier really followed through. He kind of disappeared in the books, in the works. And of course, people are not helping when we make him another God, creating myths that don't exist. Because when we read books like Testimonials by Chico Xavier through the hands of Sueli Caldas Schubert, we know that Chico Xavier was a human being who suffered, who cried, who had his struggles, he had his issues, but he overcame them. Yet not perfect. The only perfect one, Jesus. And Jesus always said, I came here because God wanted me to be here. And he was always leaving the scenery and allowing God to be center stage. So it's an exercise for us. As Emmanuel says, in mediumship, do not worry about admiring or provoking admiration. So, our homework, are we praising and adulating any medium? Because if you are, you're going to be co-responsible for their mistakes. If I am, I'm going to be co-responsible for their mistakes. By praying for them, supporting them, being grateful, but remember, they are here to learn and to serve as well. Because the only perfect one is Jesus. Not even Chico, not even Divaldo, nobody. So it doesn't matter the medium. What matters is the service, the message. So that's how he wraps up today regarding types of mediumship it doesn't matter. It's gonna pop up. And we need to do this inner exercise, observing ourselves. You're not gonna become a seeing medium like this. You sit at a table and then you start seeing spirits. Observe your life in your daily basis. You're not gonna become a speaking medium when you sit at a mediumistic table. Observe yourself. If you have that compulsion to speak all the time, and you have the urge, so we need to educate it. That's why the practice of silence is so important. Silence. Mindfulness. Right, Rudy? Mindful cooperation. There is a My Little Pony cartoon episode that I'm gonna share after I finish here, the link. I would like you to watch it, because you're gonna see in a cartoon, especially at the end of that episode, how mediumistic meetings are about more vibrations than the types of mediumship. When the ponies get together through their vibration of the elements of harmony, they help a pony that is imprisoned in the pony of shadow and is freed from it. They didn't speak words. They vibrated. So it doesn't matter which type of mediumship. It matters that we're focused, mindful, learning, vibrational education. Educating our vibrations is key for mediums, and we can only educate it when we observe ourselves and we quiet the mind and quiet the mouth. Right? Emmanuel says, let us seek above all the privilege of learning, which is a privilege, and the place of service for ourselves. This is the message today. Right, Rihanna? Yes, you are right. Right, Cesa? Yes, Emmanuel is out of this world, literally. Right? Already in our world. Exactly, Carol. Mindful silence. And here we have Rudy, Teresa Castro, Julija, Solange, how are you? Celia Lancaster, how are you? McCarthy Claire, how are you? Tanya Stewart, big hug to you and Greg. Nora Brazil, how are you? Angelita, how are you, Angelita? Laura Colli e Alberto, how are you? Sol Souza, how are you? Sol Narciso, how are you? Léa Severo, how are you? John Da Rosa, Rihanna, I already said Nico, right? Karina. Yes, friends, let me not forget here, as I'm reading some of your names, let's not forget today, a special day. It's the celebration of 160 years of the Genesis by Kardec. This month we're celebrating 150 years of the publishing of the Spiritist magazine, and we released the latest issue of the Spiritist magazine. There are several articles there that are really a must, especially some on guidelines for groups by Emmanuel, Andre Lewis. So I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss the opportunity of reading them and using them for study sessions in our Spiritist groups. Okay? So please go there. We have an app. The Spiritist magazine has an app free of charge, or you can go to the page of the Spiritist magazine on Facebook, click on it, and then you're gonna get the link to go to MagCloud, read the web version, or if you want, you can buy the very magazine and have it sent to you, to your house. Some people say, but Vanessa, $10. Come on, $10, but that's not a magazine that is going to be outdated. It's treasure for immortality. Everything that is there is going to be needed in 1,000 years. So if you have it today, you're at advantage, okay? So what's going to happen tomorrow when we come back? Chapter 49. 49 is about hidden treasures. Talking about treasures, huh? The Spiritist magazine is a treasure since Kardec. Hidden treasures is very interesting. As a teaser for us, huh? Emmanuel says, amongst other things, only work is able to form the true treasures of life. Do you think he's talking about monetary work, the one we are compensated for? He's talking about being useful. He's talking about mediumistic work. Yes, yes, yes. And he says, there are people who use the spirits to find hidden treasures, but the true hidden treasure is in service. Is it what he's going to say? What else? He writes 2 pages for us, clarifying things about this interaction with the spiritual realm. If you have a question particularly related to this, feel free to write to us. And don't forget, I'm going to put, as soon as we end, a link in the comments here in this Facebook. And if you're listening to this at Kardec Radio or watching on YouTube, you can go to, you can write to kardecradio@gmail.com and we'll forward to you the link to this episode so we can have it clear in our minds that mediumistic meetings are about the summation of our vibrations. It's a work, it's a vibratory work that we're putting together. Shall we, friends? Homework? The homework is to ask ourselves how we can best search for this privilege of learning and the place of service for our own selves. Many blessings to all of us, and until tomorrow, God willing.